Hi, welcome back to Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Judy Nathans.
And I'm Robert Winters.
And we're going to continue our romp through the agenda.
Romp to the agenda,
yeah,
right?
It was a lot because they hadn't met really for 2 weeks because of the round table and the holidays. So
things usually get a little interesting.
Yeah, although it did end by 9:30. So.
Yeah. Well, not too many action items. That's the
thing.
A good.
When
you file a petition, all you can do really is refer it.
True, and then there were 12 policy orders.
Yeah,
so,
but there were a few things that I actually, because I was so busy just sort of shooting the breeze with people that I didn't even hear. Like I think they bring up, there was the one about Vellucci Plaza and Inman Square reconfiguration and what the process has to do. And they had the city solicitor
I think the main thing there was Quentin Zondervan asking, doesn't the Mid-Cambridge Neighborhood Association have to sign off on this? And that was the question. That wasn't the main thing, but I forget what the answer was. I think it was no.
I think the answer is no.
Right.
I mean, the Mid-Cambridge Neighborhood Conservation District just primarily has to do with review of buildings.
No, but this is the neighborhood group.
The Mid-Cambridge Neighborhood Association has no standing at all.
Okay, so maybe it wasn't,
They're
whatever. I'm not sure, but I know Mid-Cambridge was in the group name. Whether there was a conservation. And I guess it's a non-issue.
They do have to file technically because it's changing open space designation, even though they're doing the swap. But they do have to file a petition to the state legislature to do that. So.
Right.
But anyway, I didn't hear any of that, so I was sort of missed out on some of
it.
it.
In the minutes.
Right.
Or watch the video, I guess.
Or watch the video, but I'm not going to do it. So
too much to do.
One other really the big item of the meeting, of course, was city manager's agenda number 1, which was the introduction of the FY2019 budget. Right. That's really a big deal.
And it wasn't really to be discussed because they're obviously going to have budget hearings, but it was to present the changes, and they kept referring to these things. I was watching on TV, and in the agenda packet did not have all the detail that they kept going. You had the real pages?
Well,
there weren't that many pages on the packet.
Right. So here's the deal. And they've actually been doing this for a long, long time.
Okay.
In fact, when I went into the city manager's office before the meeting, we even joked about it a little bit. Used to be that you can't get the budget book until all the city councilors have received the budget book. Mm-hmm. Which usually meant that you had to wait until they all showed up at the meeting, and then they said, did they all get the book yet? Because somebody might be insulted if you got it before them.
See.
And then you could go to the treasurer or somebody working at the manager's office.
So the budget book is many pages.
Oh yes, 400 some pages. Yeah.
Was that in the packet when you go to the meeting? No.
Well, no,
that's
but it was
a separate document.
Right. So I actually, before the meeting, I went to the manager's office and they handed me one.
You have it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's about that thick.
I know.
It's available now as a PDF too. You can get it online. If you go to the regular city website, it's
and it says 2018. So it's not the data.
FY 2019 annual budget. So it's available as a PDF. You can get it in either sections.
Especially at the libraries, they had 2016 there last.
Right. Well, I get it every year. Honestly, I need to.
I would like a paper version myself, but.
Oh yeah, you can get it. It's a spiral-bound paper version. I haven't going back so long; it's ridiculous. I think I need to put an addition on the house just to hold them.
You're talking about budget detail, not just the budget.
Yeah. Well,
there's 2 different documents, right?
Well, there's at least 2 different documents.
Okay.
There's the budget book, which doesn't name the individual personnel ever.
But there's one that does.
Right, there is sort of the one that's sort of the line item detail one that you can actually see salaries and individuals and individual
that's
names.
The one I'm interested in.
Etc. No, actually, it's interesting. I don't usually go after that because you sort of almost have to go in because you're trying to find something very specific if you do it.
I don't know.
It's interesting.
It connects it to the real person.
It does. So the budget book, though, is as I say, it's available as a PDF on the city website now.
So what were they presenting then last night?
So
just an overview of the departments.
So the only thing that actually appears in the council packet
it was about 12 pages.
Was basically just the budget summaries. Right.
Okay.
Now one thing.
Departments.
Yeah. Now one thing I do just because I've been around for a while. is as soon as I get that, I
Yeah.
actually crack open my Excel spreadsheet.
Oh boy, you can
And I
fix
put
it.
those numbers in,
Comparing it
and
to
I have a
other
comparison
years.
going back not 1 year, 2 year, 3
Okay.
year, 14 years even.
Wow.
And I just do that because I think it's helpful to not
Sure.
only understand whether this budget went up 5% or
Yeah.
10% or
Or
dropped
which
a little
department
bit,
went up or down.
which went up
You can see
more or
that?
less.
Okay.
Yeah. So I keep track of all of that, and then I also like to go back a long ways. I mean, I'm not going to go digging out my books from, hell knows when,
Yeah.
but like I just happen to have set 2005 as a standard, and I was comparing to 2005, FY 2005 versus FY 2019. So it's like a 14-year thing. So you can actually look and see which departments have grown substantially over time and which have not. Some have gone away or been absorbed into other departments.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right? Like emergency management was absorbed, I think, into other departments. There used to be the Conservation Commission was a separate line item. Now that's actually absorbed into Public Works.
Wow, that's
Right.
not surprising.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the 1 year change, the biggest jumps.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are very understandable. But the biggest one was the executive department. That's the city manager's office.
Okay.
Now, part is because they added a new position or two, and I could even speak to that if you wish. The mayor's office had an 11% increase. Apparently, the mayor
You're talking about for 2019?
for this
11% increase from 2018?
Right, because the thing is that the mayor is elected or selected by his colleagues during FY18,
Yeah.
but then they only submit a budget for FY19.
Okay.
So they've actually added positions in the interim.
So it's up to the mayor can add positions?
The mayor can request the addition of
and maybe
positions to
ask
the
salaries
manager.
to be raised?
Can do that too,
I
sure.
guess they
And
did.
then the manager has to sort of
11%'s
say,
a lot of
okay.
money, right?
Well, they've added two new positions to the mayor's office. The mayor's office is like, it's like this, hungry child.
You got the chief of staff, and then you have. Well, they always seem to have an
Oh, my
education
Lord.
person, though, right?
Well, there's always the education liaison,
Right.
right?
And now what did
But,
they add? Look at
for
you.
the mayor's office, let's see, there's the executive office, city council, city clerk election. The mayor's office now, in their budget, they have positions for, so they have a total of 6 positions plus the mayor.
Wait, and then before they had what, 4?
It's over the years. I remember some years ago it would be probably about 3 or 4 tops, and then it's
Well,
grown.
it sounds
and
it went
grown.
down from.
Well, I think what happened when Denise Simmons was mayor,
Oh.
she had a position for housing advisor, and then that went away because I guess it wasn't needed, so it was a
Okay.
short-term
All
hire, right? But right now they have a net increase of 2 from 4 to 6.
So they put back the housing advisor.
No, that's
they did
gone.
not.
So the positions they have in the mayor's office, in addition to the mayor,
Yeah.
is that, well, they've had a chief of staff ever since Sheila Russell was mayor.
Okay.
And they've had an education liaison, though
Right.
actually that has not technically that's here still,
That's been
right?
there a while. Yeah.
Okay, because of the role of this mayor relative
Right.
to the school committee, right?
So this is new.
So now, well, what's interesting is that it used to be like the chief of staff, and then there was like a person who sat at the desk and handled people, and then it was
That would be an
education liaison.
administrative assistant.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have an assistant to the mayor. That's a new position,
That's not an administrative assistant?
right? And then there's a chief of staff that's been around for a while. There's a deputy chief of staff, new position. There's a director of constituent services, which I'm totally supportive of because it's Luis Vasquez and he's good as gold.
And I
there's
think
the
that was there
educational.
before too. Wasn't that Manny somebody?
No, Manny was never a paid position.
Oh, all right.
There's an education liaison, which is pretty much the standard. They used to borrow that from the school department.
Wow.
Right? And then they went back to their job in the school department. And then there's an executive assistant to the mayor, right? So anyway, getting kind of up there.
Wait a minute, what's the difference between an assistant to mayor and an executive assistant to the mayor?
I can't tell the difference at all, other than the fact that you've got.
And these are full-time positions?
Yeah, and they're not. It's not that they are not politically connected.
Well, of course they're politically connected. But that's a
Well, it
little
doesn't
too
have
much.
to be. It is. I think it is a little bit too much.
But it got all
And
approved,
listen,
so.
if the mayor's office does wonderful work, great. We'll all be happy as the clams, right? But
Yeah, but it is not an elected position. They are
the
a
mayor
city
has
councilor
no
that gets, it's
particular-
ceremonial.
It is largely ceremonial.
And it does a great job
It's-
chairing the
the
meetings,
the
but
mayor's office is sort of a.
I think
it's
this
a-
is too much.
I think it is too. But it's a bit of a flexible position where it can kind of redefine itself with every mayor.
I know, but they all
but-
try to do it to their,
Well,
and
yeah.
it's patronage.
Well, yeah.
Look, I'm not even a big supporter, as you know, and you too, of the personal assistants or whatever they're called now.
Right.
aides.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I feel like that, we really are very generous to our city council.
Well, the original
and
introduction of the
rules.
city council aid was done through the mayor's office budget, so it's been a sort of a sneaky way to
Yeah,
grow
I don't know.
your power base that way.
it's too political.
But there were some other personnel changes. The police department actually added positions, not only 3 new patrol officers, but also some other positions, social worker and
That's good.
one dealing
Good
with
about
child
Good.
psychology and whatever. So
That's good.
I can't say anything bad about the police
No,
department. I think
because
they're
I
doing
think
all the right things.
policemen have to really know a lot about that stuff.
Right, and I think Cambridge is
Yeah.
pretty ahead of the game in sort of
Yeah.
trying to, as our police commissioner and his predecessor said, when Cambridge Police Department it's not about arresting and prosecuting first. It's
Right.
about dealing with situations.
Safety and.
Yeah, and if they can find a better solution that
Right.
doesn't involve sending somebody to jail, they will certainly look for that
Right.
first. That's just
Yeah.
that's
And
sort
now
of
there's
a
also a
philosophy.
new, isn't there a new housing person or something?
There is in the city manager's office,
That's
so
what I-
yeah, there was an increase in that budget as well.
Stability or-
Well, there's now
That's what people are calling for,
there's
I
like
don't
a
know if that's what
housing
it's called.
ombudsman or
Okay, it
something
would be kinda
like
like
that.
that, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely there was some increases in the manager's budget to cover that.
Any decreases in anything?
In there, I don't think there was any departments that saw any decrease in
Okay.
positions, right? But the executive department, that's the city manager's office, has an addition of what they call a customer relation program manager. Actually, I wanted to say something about
What
that.
is that?
And a housing ombudsman. I've actually noticed, even with the traffic and parking, they seem to be wanting to add positions of like communications people.
So in other words, a buffer between PR person,
Basically that's
You
right.
know?
I think
Yeah.
that's really right. It's like
someone
it's,
that the face that you deal totally with the public.
I mean,
Under
I don't want to
concerns.
overstate this
Yeah.
here, but for example, if your intention is to be rolling out new bicycle infrastructure, some of which is going to be met with open arms and some of which is going to be met with resentment,
You better have a point
you
person.
probably have a
ready.
point
Yeah.
person ready to
Yeah.
sort of, basically,
That's their job, right.
right.
Mhm.
So it seems like they're kind of insulating themselves a little bit
Yeah.
with PR people to sort of deal with some of
Mm.
the pushback that they may actually get.
Yeah, okay.
So that seems to be a little piece of it
Yeah,
here. It's really clear though they are sort of trying to sort of beef up the sort of the housing parts of things. They have another position having to do specifically with
yeah.
intake with inclusionary zoning,
Yeah.
whatever. One of the things I'm a little confused about is why that's being placed in the manager's
What-
department.
What is
because
being placed?
with the housing related ones, because we do have a community development department, it has a housing division, which is where most of
Well-
this stuff would take place.
But aren't they the final say?
Ultimately, the
manager
city
and the
manager's the
budget,
final
yeah.
say in everything, but
Yeah, so maybe
But
that's.
what has happened, I remember when they introduced the Cambridge Environmental Program many years ago, it was all done during the age of the parking freeze. And it was
Ah.
done very specifically within the executive department because there was potential real controversy. And the
Mhm.
manager, Bob Healy, at the time wanted it sort of held tight.
Well, I can see housing,
didn't
I
wanna farm
definitely
that
think is a controversial thing in terms of what's getting built, who's gonna live there, so maybe it
Yeah.
does need to be within that.
Yeah.
And they'll obviously work with,
Oh yeah,
these
yeah.
other departments.
But it's
That's
I
what
would,
I'm- yeah.
it's just it does seem strange a little bit to me to start bringing in too many overly
So maybe there
specific
still
things in.
will be then money, they keep talking, people, public comment about, housing stability person, so maybe that would come out of another.
One of the things that's the Envision Cambridge Working Group for Housing.
So is that coming out of there?
They talk about Office of Housing Stability or creating something like that.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't
so
know
that's
that
still on the table.
That's not specifically within the budget, but that
not here,
but that's also part of Envision Cambridge recommendation, which will not come back until
in
November.
this budget, right?
So it may
could be something happening in another department.
It could appear as a supplemental appropriation later in the year.
Maybe in community development.
Right. What is budgeted? So the fiscal 2019 budget is not the same as the adjusted budget that's only known after the fiscal year is concluded.
I see.
There's free cash gets reallocated toward specific projects and things along the way, and then only after it's all said and done, every appropriation has to get a city council vote, but there are these supplementals and things that happen throughout the year.
So this will all. So then the budget hearings. You have it on your website. I know they're divided into departments, right? So when are they taking place?
Yeah, so the budget hearings will be coming up in early May. It's always early May. And specifically, actually, I'm going to just jump right ahead and tell you.
Is it on here?
So the first one, there's really three meetings.
Right.
The first one is actually going to be on Tuesday, May 1st. So that's coming up really quick next week. And that's the Finance Committee on the FY2019 budget.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Okay.
May
and that
1st,
starts at 9 a.m. And,
so there you go.
It doesn't have to go the whole day, but it could.
Okay.
The other one on this regular city budget will be a week later on, actually.
Here it is, May 10th. Yeah, this one? The Finance Committee? Conduct a public.
Oh, you know something? I actually have this put in the wrong place. It's actually Tuesday, May 8th. I have to fix my calendar.
Right. Oh no, you have it there, but you have the detail there. Okay, so it is May 8th.
May 8th.
9 a.m. May 8th is the Finance Committee to discuss. So, and then what?
There's also the School Committee budget, which will be on Wednesday, May 9th at 6 p.m. That's usually a shorter hearing because it's only one department.
6 p.m.
Yeah. Now
But why are all the others in the morning and that one is?
Well, it's really all day because you have city employees. The staff are all called to the meetings.
Okay.
It's actually kind of it used to be that all these city staff people would just be sitting around all day
but
waiting.
I think I went once, and unless this council wants to address the department, they just pass things.
Right, and I'm so grateful that they do it, and believe me, the departments are grateful that they do it. So what they will typically do is they'll at the meeting. Is there anything
done ahead of time though? Like
at the beginning, what they do is they first ask for public comment at the very beginning, and there's usually
there is public comment.
There's usually very few people will speak at the budget hearings, but but one or two people will, and then so they'll do that. That's usually pretty quick, and then what they do is they ask the city councilors. They go around, are there any budgets you want pulled? And then, so out of the 20 or so that they'll have,
it's kind of like when they look at the agenda.
So they'll pull, executive leadership, maybe the information technology, so they can gripe about broadband.
Okay.
They'll pull something. They usually pull the election commission, which is unfortunate because it's really they don't really ask good questions.
Gary Mello's random.
Oh
Did you see that?
Well, honestly, it was in the last budget, like when Maslin was still there, and Mello just talked trash. Maslin took it like Bible truth, and it led to a real kerfuffle where there was a real battle between the mayor and Maslin, all based on nonsense. Not from the mayor.
The budget is pretty big, because that encompasses the elections itself. And
right. So there was an increase in the election budget, but that's because this year is the year they're buying the new equipment. So that's all part of this. Actually, I think some of the money for the equipment was part of the prior budget, so it's actually being purchased in this year's budget. Okay. But there's additional aspects of this.
So can the public send in communications about this, or would it go to individual councilors if you're concerned about a budget item or
best
department?
Thing to do is you
can the best thing just to send it to all
you can
of them?
send it to the finance committee and it'll be part of the record, or you can just go and speak. But it would be to do it ahead of time, because if say it's May 10th, then you want to get it in. You could do it. Okay. I mean, they accept testimony written or. Isn't that everybody? It's on let's see, who's the chair? Denise Simmons?
I don't know.
Actually, I forget. I should know. I forget.
Okay.
But I think it is Denise Sims.
All right.
So they'll pull the budgets, and then what they usually do as a courtesy, they ask, because everybody's there.
Right.
They say, could you please introduce you don't have, you can go home now, but
Yeah.
just introduce yourself and your staff, and they do that. Thank you very
It
much.
says it right
See
here.
you,
Those
bye.
wishing to testify may do so either at the beginning or
Or the
conclusion.
very end.
Copies of the budget, you have it all in here.
Yeah.
It will be viewed.
Right. So the thing is typically they'll pull 5 or 7 budgets and wave the rest through, and pass them to the full city council with a positive recommendation, as they say.
Okay.
And then the day will be, they'll go in some sequence that will be prescribed, and then sometimes the people from a particular department may go back to work because they've been told come back around 11.
I see.
Because they're supposed to be working, and they
So
can't
it's
just sit
basically
around.
2 days of budget hearings.
2 of this regular city budget, yeah.
Of the regular city
And
budget.
it's not all budgets,
And not
but it's
school.
it's
Is that-
usually. I mean, there's some that you can almost guarantee are going to be called. They
Well,
always
this
get
is a
called.
larger, there's more departments on the May 1st one. That's the
Right.
first one.
Yeah,
And
but
those could be carried over to the next hearing if they don't get through all
no, they don't
Oh,
do
they
that.
can't?
I mean, they could do anything
But
they
they'll
want.
just stay till they complete it for those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. They go through them, and then.
Well, that's why it starts at 9, I guess.
And then they have to take a vote to recommend that budget, that
Mhm.
department's budget, to the full city council with a positive recommendation.
So,
They essentially never change any of the budgets,
so when it's the finance committee, it just needs the quorum of the finance committee then to do this?
which is a committee of the whole, and I don't remember.
Oh, so that everyone is
Yeah.
expected to be there.
They're expected to be there. They're not always there, and they're not always there the whole
supposed, I mean, some
time.
of them have,
It's
day
considered
jobs.
very bad form
yeah,
to miss the budget hearing.
yeah.
But
So
it
you
does
have to have a
sometimes happen.
flexible day job because,
You do have to have a flexible
I mean,
day job.
how they can do both, I have no idea.
Right. Well,
But,
take a sick day
certainly
that
get,
day. Right? Yeah.
no, yeah.
So anyway, so that's how it happens, and then sometime in the afternoon they'll wrap up, and then they'll ask if anybody else wants to make public comment, and they'll do that, and then all those departments will be moved on. Every once in a while, a budget is held, and
Any in your
and it's-
memory that you remember?
yeah, and it's passed to the city council without recommendation,
Hmm.
and they usually are doing that because they're trying to hold something up, because there's some, like for example, and there was a controversy with the dance complex, which was technically owned by the Cambridge Multicultural Arts Center,
Yeah.
and then they were starting to demand higher rents, and they said, well, this was never
causes-
part of the idea.
Right, because the city has an investment in that.
Yeah,
I
so
remember
that
yeah.
was really meant to be sort of a formal ownership. It wasn't meant to be sort of a mean landlord ownership.
Right.
So the city council held up that budget. They did the same thing one year with the school department budget.
Hmm.
I forget what the controversy was about that, but they were basically trying to cajole the individual departments to do something. One thing I think it needs to be stated about budgets is that the city council cannot appropriate anything. All they can do is agree to the manager's appropriation and vote the appropriation.
Okay.
So they can.
They can't create.
No, they can't increase.
Say they can't increase or decrease.
They
can
cannot
just
add any items, and they
agree or
cannot
not agree,
increase. They
or
can
not
decrease.
They
They
can?
they can look at it, and they can rescind a certain payment. They can say, we're not going to cover this.
Really, and then the city manager would have to do that?
Rarely does that
Yeah, I was
happen.
gonna say.
Rarely. It was. I remember maybe twice that this has ever happened. Right, a long time ago, and then at the end, Tim Toomey famously said something like, "Do you realize we've had all this controversy and all this testimony and blah blah blah, and we've managed to reduce the city budget by 0.00027%." Right, and he was right. They never do it. I mean, partly it's because the city councilors talk to the manager, and so some of this is sort of just understood beforehand. So
Right.
by the time it's coming to the city council, it's largely, there's some understandings that have
Right.
already been had.
Right.
The manager is usually very responsive to city council
Yeah.
goals.
I
And
mean, they have a
it's in there.
whole budget department.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
And
does.
he was the head of the budget.
That's
too,
right.
wasn't it?
It does sometimes happen that the city council during the budget hearings will say to the manager, "Mr. Manager, if you could be so kind as to consider possibly adding something in so that when we come back we might have this." And
I
then
see.
sometimes the manager
We'll
will
do that.
say, "Okay, that's a good idea. We
If
can
I
make
can
that
do-
adjustment."
Okay. Or,
But-
you know, I'll try, but they're
We'll
not
try.
obligated to do
He's
it.
absolutely not
Okay.
obligated to do it. And honestly, the better way to do that is just to pass the budget as is and then deal with it through supplemental appropriations after the fact.
Oh, supplementary.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. But, you know, so the city council ultimately must approve the budget, but they don't have a whole lot of control. They draft
Yeah.
nothing in it.
It gets political, I guess.
It can be.
Because it becomes saying, well, you know, it depends on what their issues are.
But the way the real politic works here is
Yeah,
that the
it's
city
not
councilors
fair,
are talking to the manager and they're talking to people and talking to whatever. And then, you know, if it's looked upon favorably, it appears in the budget. So,
Okay.
you know, it would be unfair to in any way suggest that the manager is just making this stuff up.
Oh, sure.
It is very much done in response to.
Now, Robert, I know you wanted to talk about, I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah.
time, the Constellation.
Well, just say quick here.
Quickly.
So one thing that was sort of
Yeah.
an interesting development was that there was a property called the Parcel C in the Constellation Center in Kendall Square. And that's basically when they were doing the Com Energy site back around 1999. It was supposed to be this performing arts center. And it's basically just been an empty lot with some rusty sculpture ever since.
Okay.
So almost 2 decades have passed.
Wow.
So there was actually, ironically, an order from the city council, to me saying, you know, well, what are the plans for development in that site?
Yeah.
When it's going to happen?
Yeah.
Well, after around the same time, and totally coincidentally,
He got a letter.
they sent out a press release saying they're going to sell the site and
Yeah.
sell the parcel. But it's a foundation, and it was, you know, the foundation that owns it and controls it has a charitable mission. So any money that comes from it would then be pumped back in toward something that would be in sync with the original intention. So you might actually find a foundation that may have a funding source for some arts
Right, but
related
not
things.
necessarily on that parcel, which could
Yeah,
go to.
It's certainly possible that whoever takes over the site could incorporate.
Right, but they're not
a performing-
obligated to, unless
But
the.
well, what the
the
council,
seller-
I think a lot of people
Yeah.
don't know, is there are constraints on that site. I mean,
Okay.
this was done in 1999,
Sure,
and
it's
downzoning is a
insane,
word.
yeah.
So if you think you can put a 40-story building up
Sure.
there as it stands right
Right.
now, the answer is you cannot.
I'll have to look
The
into
city
that.
council may want to change that
Mm.
because it may make a lot of things possible that would not otherwise be
Well,
possible.
that's interesting.
So
All right.
anyway,
So we'll be back next week though.
on
with
Cambridge
some-
Inside Out.
And